The wolf never concerns himself with the opinions of sheep. You ever walk into a room, say nothing, and still feel like you just punched the air out of everyone's lungs? That's Sigma energy. And here's the wild part. It's not aggressive. It's not loud. It's not even meant to threaten. But it shakes the room. Some people are fine with it. They nod. They respect the silent authority. Others, they crack. They shatter. They implode. There's one specific personality type that simply can't survive in the presence of a true Sigma male. Not because the Sigma says anything, not because he tries, just because of who he is. In this video, I'm giving you the blueprint, not just a name, but 10 deep psychological breakdowns of the traits that never last around a Sigma. These are the types that fall apart under pressure without a single word being said. So if you're ready to stop playing small and start understanding the hidden dynamics of power, presence, and psychology, welcome to Sigma Ascends. And if you're new here, subscribe like your old self depends on it, because this channel doesn't entertain, it evolves you. Let's begin. Point 1. The mirror cracks. The hyper-validation seeker. This is the kind of person who doesn't exist unless someone is watching. They chase compliments like oxygen. They post, they pose, they constantly scan the room looking for signs of approval. Their entire identity is built on external feedback. Without it, they feel empty, like a screen with no signal. They look to others to tell them who they are, what they're worth, what to feel. Enter the Sigma. The Sigma doesn't clap, doesn't praise, doesn't give unnecessary feedback. He's not rude, he just doesn't play that game. And that silence, that lack of validation, to the validation addict, it's lethal. See, the hyper-validation seeker thrives in environments filled with applause, likes, and constant reassurance. But the Sigma stands firm. He observes, he doesn't flatter, because he doesn't need to. His value is internal. His world is built inward, not outward. And suddenly, the seeker is left with no mirror, no reflection, just themselves. And for most of them, that's terrifying. They spiral, they overcompensate. They try harder, louder jokes, more dramatic stories, exaggerated emotions. But the Sigma doesn't flinch, which drives the seeker even deeper into insecurity. It's not that the Sigma destroys them. It's that the seeker was never solid to begin with. Sigmas don't break people. They just stop giving them the crutches they depended on. Point 2. The puppet master blues, the manipulative charmer. This person believes they're the smartest in the room. They talk in smiles. They hug with hidden knives. They thrive on emotional manipulation, pulling people into their orbit through charm, guilt, or faux empathy. But here's the thing. Manipulation only works when people need something from you. The Sigma doesn't. The Sigma doesn't chase approval, attention, or connection. He doesn't need the charmer. And that alone strips the manipulator of their power. When they try to use emotion to influence the Sigma, they're met with calm indifference. He doesn't argue, doesn't play defense, doesn't react. He just watches. And that's where the danger lies. The charmer starts getting frustrated. Their usual tricks, flattery, guilt trips, passive-aggressive remarks, bounce off like tennis balls on steel. They're used to people biting the bait, but the Sigma, he's not even fishing in the same river. Eventually, the manipulator starts unraveling. They try harder. They get louder, more dramatic. And the Sigma, he either leaves or exposes them without lifting a finger. This is psychological warfare with no blood spilled. And the manipulative charmer loses every time. Not because the Sigma attacked, but because the Sigma refused to be controlled. Point 3. Echoes in the hall. The group identity addict. You've seen them. They only feel real when surrounded by others. They follow trends, mimic beliefs, adopt identities just to belong. Their thoughts aren't their own. Their personality is crowdsourced. Without the herd, they're hollow. Then the Sigma walks in, unaffiliated, unapologetic, unattached. He doesn't belong to any group, doesn't follow any code he didn't write himself. He is the exception, and that terrifies the group addict, because the Sigma proves something they've been avoiding their whole life, that you can be whole without being part. Suddenly, their entire social dynamic starts to shake. They see someone thriving without validation, praise, or followers, and it forces them to confront a truth they've buried under likes and approval. They've never stood on their own 2 feet. Some of them get inspired. Most of them feel threatened. They try to drag the Sigma into the group, test his loyalty, pressure him to join something, and when he doesn't, they attack, they isolate, they gossip. But he doesn't need them, and that fact burns louder than any insult they throw. Sigmas don't expose the weak. They remind them they're not strong on their own. Point 4. The spotlight parasite, the chronic performer. Some people live for the stage, even if there's no real audience. Every room is a show, every conversation is a monologue. They don't connect, they perform. They joke too hard, overshare too soon, exaggerate everything. Why? Because silence scares them. It reminds them they're not interesting unless they're being loud. But when the Sigma enters the room, calm, present, completely unaffected, the performer starts to glitch. Because suddenly, the crowd looks away. The performer relies on reactive energy. They need people to laugh, nod, cheer, or validate. But the Sigma, he just watches. He doesn't react, doesn't reward. That silence, that lack of energy exchange, it kills the performance. And worse, without saying a word, the Sigma becomes more magnetic. Why? Because confidence that doesn't need attention steals it anyway. The performer starts spiraling. They try harder, louder voice, bigger gestures, forced stories. But the energy in the room has already shifted. People stop responding out of interest and start reacting out of second-hand embarrassment. The performer has lost the stage. And the Sigma, he never even stood on it. Here's the raw truth. The Sigmas don't compete for attention. They redirect it without effort. And the spotlight parasite, they either adapt or fade into irrelevance. Point 5. The book with no spine, the passive reactor. You know this person. They never initiate, never lead. They wait, always, for someone else to tell them what to do, what to think, what's safe. They blend into the background, not because they want peace, but because they fear risk. They've built a life avoiding confrontation, avoiding opinions, avoiding identity. They let life happen to them. Enter the Sigma, direct, decisive, unapologetically self-led. He doesn't ask permission, he moves. And suddenly the passive reactor sees everything they're not. They feel exposed, like someone just turned the lights on in a room they were hiding in. At first they admire it, then they feel threatened, because Sigmas don't wait, they act. And action is contagious or confronting. The passive reactor tries to keep up, tries to mimic decisiveness, but it falls flat, because real decisiveness comes from conviction, and they have none. When the Sigma speaks, people listen. When the reactor speaks, people wait for someone else to co-sign it. It's not about volume, it's about authority, and the Sigma carries it without trying. So what happens? The reactor either levels up or breaks down. Some try to copy the Sigma's style, cold, minimal, silent, but they forget it's not a style, it's a substance. Sigmas don't move to dominate, they move because they don't want to be dominated. And the reactor, they get left behind, not because they're weak, but because they refuse to become strong. Point 6. The void connector, the faux deep thinker. You've met this one. They speak in quotes. Everything's about energy, frequencies, and vibes. They drop spiritual buzzwords like breadcrumbs. But when you actually try to go deep, There's nothing there. They're cosplaying as wise, borrowing depth to look mysterious. And that works until the Sigma shows up. See, Sigmas don't talk about being deep. They don't advertise complexity. They live it. Their silence has weight. Their words are precise. They don't need mysticism to create presence. Their presence is mystic by default. So when the faux deep thinker starts quoting Rumi or parroting philosophy, the Sigma just listens. He doesn't challenge, doesn't agree, doesn't perform. He exists in that space of real insight without trying. And suddenly, the faux thinker starts to panic. Their performance isn't landing. Their usual tricks, cryptic smiles, vague metaphors, feel shallow next to someone who's the real thing. They start to overdo it, start pushing for connection, for recognition. But the Sigma gives nothing back. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. Because the Sigma knows depth doesn't need an audience. Truth doesn't need validation. The void connector. They're not evil. They're just trying too hard. But in the presence of something genuine, all that effort gets exposed. And when your identity is based on pretending to be something deep, real depth destroys you without ever saying a word. Point 7. The fragile architect. The overplanner structure. Routine, control. This personality type builds their entire world like a spreadsheet. Every step calculated, every risk minimized. They don't just plan their day. They try to plan people. They map conversations in their head before they happen. And when things go off script, they panic. On the surface, this person looks stable, organized, even responsible. But look closer, and you'll see the truth. They're afraid of the unknown, afraid of chaos, afraid of losing control. Then the Sigma shows up. The Sigma doesn't plan his impact. He is the impact. He lives in the moment, moves by instinct. He doesn't fear chaos. He thrives in it, and that terrifies the fragile architect. Because when the Sigma makes decisions without spreadsheets, without endless meetings, without overthinking, it works. He adapts. He flows. He does what the architect can't: let go. That effortless adaptability, it feels dangerous to someone who relies on control to feel safe. The architect starts questioning everything. They ask, how can he just do things? How does he trust the unknown? But the Sigma isn't guessing. He just trusts himself more than the plan. Eventually, the architect either starts resenting him or trying to copy him. They abandon their structure too quickly and spiral, or they double down on rigidity, trying to prove they're better prepared. Either way, they lose. Because in a world that's constantly shifting, the one who can flow always beats the one who has to force. The Sigma doesn't destroy their structure. He just reminds everyone that life doesn't care about your plans. Point 8. The hollow alpha, the force dominator, loud voice, bigger walk, constant eye contact. This is the type that acts dominant, but isn't. They confuse fear with respect, control with leadership, aggression with confidence. They bark orders, interrupt conversations, always trying to one-up, always posturing. But the Sigma, he doesn't play that game. When the hollow alpha tries to intimidate, the Sigma just looks at him, silent, calm, unbothered, and that alone breaks the performance. Because the hollow alpha needs you to flinch, needs you to back down to prove their illusion works. But when you don't respond, when you don't move, it reveals that their power is fake. The Sigma doesn't fight for position. He owns his space without competing for it. That kind of presence, it erases fake dominance. People start noticing the contrast. The hollow alpha starts looking like a kid playing dress-up. And the Sigma, he just keeps moving, quiet, calm, respected. No yelling, no flexing, just gravity. And that's the difference. Real power whispers, fake power screams. Point 9. The web weaver, the chronic gossiper. This personality type thrives on secrets and whispers. They collect information like weapons and use it to control, manipulate, or simply stay relevant. They want to know everything, but not to understand, just to use it. Their greatest fear? Irrelevance, silence, being outside the loop. So they stir drama, plant seeds, divide people, because the web keeps them in the center. Then the Sigma walks in. He doesn't feed it, doesn't react, doesn't participate. He's immune to gossip, not because he's above it, because he's uninterested. To the web weaver, that's devastating, because if the Sigma doesn't play the game, people start to wonder why anyone else is. The energy shifts, others follow his lead. They stop listening to the gossiper. They start valuing clarity, directness, integrity. The web weaver gets desperate. They try to bait the Sigma, insults, secrets, passive-aggressive remarks, but there's no fuel, no engagement, and without attention, the web collapses, because gossip only survives when it's fed, and Sigmas don't feed anything that doesn't grow them. The gossiper isn't defeated by attack, they're defeated by irrelevance, and that's a death they can't recover from. Point 10. The emotional landmine, the overreactor. This is the personality that walks through life like a loaded grenade. One wrong word, one misunderstood tone, and boom. Every disagreement is an attack. Every silence is judgment. Every honest opinion is betrayal. They wear their wounds like badges. But here's the twist. They're not looking to heal. They're looking to control through emotion. They manipulate with breakdowns, weaponize sensitivity, and punish anyone who doesn't tiptoe around their triggers. Most people accommodate. They walk on eggshells. But the Sigma, he walks through barefoot and never flinches. Because the Sigma doesn't react. He doesn't apologize for existing. He lets the emotional landmine explode and just watches. And when the blast doesn't move him, the landmine starts to implode. Because here's what emotional manipulators can't handle. Someone who isn't trying to fix them. Someone who doesn't validate their chaos. The Sigma's steady energy is like a mirror. It reflects their instability without judgment. And that kind of reflection? It's brutal. They either break down completely or realize they've never actually been in control. Sigmas don't disrespect emotions. They just don't let unstable ones dictate reality. To the landmine, that feels like cruelty. But to the Sigma, it's just emotional discipline. And in the end, the person who can't handle themselves can never handle a Sigma. Bonus: why Sigmas don't even try to destroy these types, but do anyway. Here's what most people don't understand. Sigmas aren't trying to dominate. They're not on a mission to humble anyone. They're not out to prove points or pick fights. They just live in alignment with who they are. No masks, no games, no performance. And that, by itself, is disruptive. Because when you move through life unapologetically authentic, you expose everyone who's pretending. You don't even mean to. You just walk, and masks start falling. And those who rely on fake identity, who depend on others to feel valid, safe, or strong, they start to crack. The Sigma isn't trying to destroy anyone. He's just immune to illusions. And when you're immune to illusion, you become dangerous to people living inside one. That's why so many personalities break in the presence of a Sigma, not because of cruelty, but because of contrast. In a world full of noise, the one who moves in silence becomes the loudest. In a world of followers, the one who doesn't follow becomes a threat. So if you're someone who wants to become Sigma to control others or to look powerful, you're missing the whole point. Being Sigma isn't about destruction. It's about being so stable that unstable things fall apart around you, on their own. Ascenders, if you've made it this far, you already know. We're not here to flex muscles or memorize power plays. We're here to sharpen our instincts, to master our presence, to step out of noise and into clarity. The Sigma path is not easy. It's quiet, solitary, deep, but it's clean, it's real, and it leaves impact without effort. So if you saw yourself in any of these broken personality types, good. That means you're honest. That means you're ready. And if you saw yourself in the Sigma, then walk it. Don't say it. Don't fake it. Don't announce it. Be it. Because lions don't roar for attention. They roar to remind the world it still belongs to them. And Sigmas, they don't roar at all. They move. And the ground remembers. Subscribe if you're done sleeping. Join the tribe if you're tired of pretending. Because here on Sigma Ascends, we don't chase status. We become the signal. Till next time, walk sharp, think clean, and leave no proof behind. I'm out.